I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is TBT News Headlines. Two men convicted of killing Malcolm X exonerated half a century later. Julius Jones's death sentence commuted hours before sentence execution. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signs legislation against COVID mandates for workers. President Biden says the U.S. is considering a diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Winter Olympics. According to the U.S. News, two men who for decades steadfastly maintained their innocence in the 1965 assassination of the civil rights leader Malcolm X were exonerated on Thursday after nearly 2 years of re-investigation. Muhammad Aziz, now 83, and the late Khalil Islam were convicted in 1966 after a trial in which authorities withheld evidence favorable to the defense, said the attorneys. The Innocence Project and civil rights leader David Chenese. The Manhattan judge Ellen Biden dismissed the convictions of Aziz and Islam on Thursday afternoon. Quote, I regret that this court cannot fully undo the serious miscarriages of justice in this case and give you back the many years that you lost, close quote, she said. As the motion to toss out the convictions were granted, the courtroom burst into applause. That's a heavy story, y'all. And in other news, according to the ABC News report, after spending the past 20 years fighting for his life on death row, Julius Jones' sentence was commuted to life without the possibility of parole hours before he was scheduled to be executed, according to the Oklahoma governor's office. After prayerful consideration and reviewing materials presented by all sides of this case, I have determined to commute Julius Jones' sentence to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt said in a statement released Thursday. Last week, a federal appeals court rejected Jones's final appeal, which meant the decision to spare his life lay only with Stitt, who accepted the parole board's recommendation to grant Jones clemency. Jones's execution date was slated for the 18th of November, so props up for the governor down in Oklahoma. According to the Wall Street Journal, President Biden said the U.S. government is considering a diplomatic boycotting of the upcoming Winter Olympics in Beijing, a decision that could bar government officials from attending the Games. It's something we're considering, the president told reporters at the White House on Thursday. The Chinese embassy in Washington didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Asked Wednesday about reports of a possible U.S. diplomatic boycott, a Chinese foreign ministry spokesman sidestepped the question and said the Olympics, quote, is a stage for all winter sports athletes around the world. It is them that should be in the spotlight, close quote. And in other news, once again, according to the Washington Post, now check out this story. This is something different here. As a man hiked last month through lush terrain in Waipiko, a town on Hawaii's Oahu Island, a pungent stench suddenly whiffed past him. It smelled like alcohol, and it was coming from a nearby stream that was about 120 feet below a freeway. Concerned about the possible environmental implications, he contacted Carol Cox, a local activist and advocate who runs the nonprofit Enviro Watch. He described the smell as being horrific, Cox said in an interview with the Washington Post. He and a few colleagues visited the scene soon after and noticed that a storm drain that poked out from underneath the freeway expelled the water down the cliff and into the stream. On the other side of the busy street was a warehouse for one of the state's largest distributors of alcohol and liquor, he said. Cox reported the finding to government officials, who identified the source as Paradise Beverages, according to emails reviewed by the Washington Post. I'm Tyrone Bowman for TBT News Headlines.